Thank you very much. Thank you very much, folks. Thanks for turning up. I count about 21 different agencies here, so that's very good. Appreciate it. I hope we can do this every month, get together. Idea here is the idea here is to just converse with each other and find out what we are doing and try and share agendas and try and share ideas. So it's not that we are going to hold forth. No, not at all. We'll just give you a brief idea of what we are doing, and then obviously the floor is open. And anybody who wants to present anything or say anything, that's fine. Absolutely, feel free to just jump in and say, "I'm going to present this." The whole point of this is to have a conversation amongst ourselves. The group that's doing some research here, just share ideas, nothing more. There's no other agenda here except to share ideas. We think it's important that we talk to each other because we seldom do, except at a big conference. But we want this to be a much freer atmosphere, not that this is a conference and not that it's anybody's got any agendas or anything. So we'll just very briefly tell you what we are trying to do, and then you can do. Anybody wants to say anything else? Tell me right now. We can include you in the presentations of things.
Presentation. Still a draft.
So the thing is, we've been talking about doing research on reform for the last 4 or 5 years. We're doing lots of different things all over the place. So we thought with the election coming, we've been trying to work on this for the last 3-4 months, develop an agenda for reform. And the idea is, our view is very different. Our view is that we need a very deep reform. This thing about talking about society, that somehow we are in a normal state and that all we need to do is fix tax and fix this and fix that will work. It won't work. We've got deep, deep structural issues. And when I say structure, I don't mean structure in the sense, the way IMF uses it, which is very simply saying increased taxation. No, we've got a governance issue, big issue. We've got 19th century colonialism. We've copied the Government of India Act. And we've got all kinds of deep issues where we as society is falling apart. I went to Balochistan just now, it looks terrible. I went to Azad Kashmir, it looks bad. And I think, quite frankly, the society is falling apart. Nayab has done this basic survey, we won't go into it, where we looked at the state of social capital in the country, trust, it's horrible. So with all these issues, we thought we'd pull together what's the reform, what the manifesto for the country is. And we've developed what we call a PIDE manifesto. We're going to publish it very soon. Meanwhile, we'll give you a brief look at it. We've also got our discourse, which hopefully will turn up here. Like everything else, we are inefficient, so the discourse hasn't turned up. But I'm sure all of you have seen it. We've tried to put together all the thinkers of Pakistan. We told everybody, please give us something. And we put together a whole volume of collected thinking. It's not ours, it's everybody's. We've told everybody, write. Whoever wanted to write is published. We're putting out a second volume. So I again ask you, please give us your ideas, whatever you like. We'll publish it because there should be a collection where all of us are together. I know we love to fight and I know we love to say, oh no, I'm different from you. But please ensure it, put it together. It's not that you want to agree with us. Please don't agree with us. Doesn't matter. We want difference of opinion. You look at this thing that we put out, nobody agrees. It's just all over the place. But good, at least all the names are there. And some very serious people have written about it. So without much ado, I'll tell you very briefly what our manifesto is going to be. And you'll see it soon in print, but you can get the general gist of where we are going. I mean, I think society is not about getting more projects or whatever. In fact, let me put it this way. We have a sub-theme which we use very frequently, which is absolutely correct, economic history. Nobody talks about it. People talk about this ephemeral thing, very strange thing that Pakistan's growth rate was very high till 90 and after that it declined. What a strange joke. I don't understand that at all. It's not provable. It's absolutely ridiculous. Pakistan's growth rate was high to begin with because we began with a low base. We had absolutely nothing here, not even a road. So we built something, and at the same time, we were the first country to be emancipated. The whole of Africa, everywhere else was still in shackles. So yes, we got some aid, and we built Tarbela and Mangla Dam. So we had a bit of a growth burst, but it's nothing great or remarkable to talk about. This myth that Pakistan, Korea learned from us, this is just a myth. It's just a joke. But the main thing is that the Haq-Hag model, which is still with us, which is very important for all of you to know, which people don't know, unfortunately. Even our economists don't know. Very simple, read Mahbubul Haq's book, Strategy of Economic Growth, the Harvard Advisory Group papers. The Harvard Advisory Group put in place a two-gap model, which is based another variation of the Harrod-Domar model, which basically said that there were two shortages here. One is infrastructure, the other is dollars. And the whole economy was going to be based on running projects to build infrastructure, roads, railways, etc., which we needed a lot. Railways we don't build, but roads and energy, etc. Fair enough. I'm not saying that is incorrect then. But at the same time, we also needed dollars. So for dollars, we had a mercantilist model in place where we said, okay, import substitution and export promotion. We'll subsidize exports and close down imports and have this. And then at the same time, we had huge capital controls. As I keep telling people, people don't appreciate it. I could not order a comic book when I was growing up. I could not buy a book when I was growing up. Everything was closed. I'd never seen a dollar. It was the Huck Hag model. We are continuing with that Huck Hag model right now. We are still looking for dollars. We are still doing projects. We are still doing brick and mortar. We have not moved to what I call the endogenous growth model. We have not moved to Paul Romer or Robert Lucas. We are still stuck in the Huck Hag model. So underlying this, we want to move to the endogenous growth model where the deep institutional reform that is required has to happen. It's very important to understand. I think Zahid was right that where's the connectivity, interconnectivity? Yes, of course, Zahid. I think quite frankly, we have to figure out what is the most important reform. We've done all these tax back and forth as Akhtar Saab said. But the key thing is Humayun Saab says, look, the public administration, the political system is so pathetic. It's so 19th century that no matter what you graft on it will not happen. That's why we are asking the most central reform is to get this system right. And if you can't get this system right, we can keep talking about this, that, etc. Keep throwing all kinds of research that it's not happening. And as to whether we all agree or not, it's great if we agree. I mean, I'm absolutely happy that we agree. The question is, unfortunately, we don't agree enough. And I don't see any reason. When I was in the government, people used to tell me, hey, do this. Even the World Bank or the IMF would come. I said, why should I do it? Because I don't know what the people are thinking. So if people like us get together and put out something together, some agenda, it has more gravitas. Right now, the problem is these scattered agendas have no gravitas. And as a policymaker, former policymaker, I can tell you, I wouldn't pay attention because why should I? I want to see more agreement on something before I pay attention to it. But if let's say, Shaf comes up with something, Saddam comes up with something, Anil comes up with something, why do I care? Even in the West, if you look at it, what happens is when people see something emerging, like healthcare is emerging, like the Gaza situation is emerging, then policymakers begin to notice. But if you say, I said this once, then I'm sorry, it doesn't work. What is the biggest problem in the energy sector? We have bled on the energy sector in the last 20 years, more than the defense budget. What is the problem in the energy sector? Nawaz Sharif thinks it's a supply problem. So he's increased supply enormously, increased our debt with supply, and we are still where we are, and circular debt is growing. And the tariff is growing too. So, what is the real problem in the energy sector? This is where the think tank community should come in. What do you think is the real problem in the energy sector?
Distribution network.
Sorry?
The distribution network. Discourse.
I don't think it's a hardware issue. I think what you're saying is a software issue. I know you lawyers profit from our software issues. The problem is there's no disco governance in this country. The finance secretary runs the discos. Discos are not independent entities. Tariff is set by NEPA. Where is the market? So quite frankly, all those pious wishes, A, never happened. B, I don't know whether they were applicable or not. Privatization of these discos, again, it's a moot point. We have to talk about it. Can these discos be privatized? Will they be privatized? Because we don't have a regulatory system. So if they are privatized, like KE held us to ransom, KE privatization needs to be examined. So here is a discussion that needs to happen. What is the real problem in the energy sector? And quite frankly, I think this is a debate that has never happened in this country. We do not have an energy system in the country. We've got a Secretary of Energy who runs the whole system, and the different people come along and they say, now I've learned the energy sector. I'm going to tweet something. This has happened 10 times. And then, oh, we'll increase the tariff. Oh my God, line losses are there. Oh my God, this thing is there. So tell me, who runs the disco? Discos are run by grade 20 officials. I remember when I used to do the power sector reform in the government, I got very far. And then suddenly the secretary pulled the rug because they wanted the power. We've done a book on energy. Afia sitting there. Afia, can you show them your book if you have it? We've done a book on energy. The problem is that we don't have a management system. The software is just not there. Ministry of Finance, because they need the money, they sweep up all the disco funds. Discos are not capable of taking their own decisions to increase their to develop their management systems and hardware. So I think we have to take that into account. So that's a debate that we should happen. So there's one debate at least. If you think the we is us, right? Think about it. No secretary wants to sit here. No DMG. Is there one DMG officer? There's only one retired DMG officer. There's no other DMG officer. They don't want to sit with us. They have their own thing. So who's the we? And do they listen to you? There has to be a decentralized system that works. And if you're not willing to decentralize the power sector, we will have a huge issue. So long as the Secretary Energy or the Minister Energy, in fact, we ask for an abolition of the Ministry of Energy. There is no reason to have a Ministry of Energy. It is not a political subject. It should be a technical subject where everything is run by technically. There's no reason to have Ministry of Energy. But if there's a Ministry of Energy, they should do climate change or something like that. They should not interfere in the system. We need a decentralized system, and that decentralized system, unless it happens, then we are continuing to borrow and build in hardware, continue to borrow and build hardware, which means we build hardware and we waste it. Like, for example, we built a solar plant, total waste. We built a coal plant, which is importing coal from South Africa or Iran, Afghanistan, or whatever. So we tie ourselves into knots with that.
Yes.
We talked about professors. Here's the data. Please look at it and tell us what's wrong here.
Academic staff को discuss कीजिए.
एक minute. We are discussing academic staff. Sorry. देखिए जी बात सुनिए. आप बाहर, whenever you went, Johns Hopkins, for example, you went there, right? Tell me how many professors there were and how many academic staff there were in your department. I'm not talking about outside. I have not gone to a single university where a department, Johns Hopkins has probably the smallest economics department in the US, right? Everywhere else, there are 30, 40, 50 professors in it. I'm not talking about the rest of the stuff. I'm talking about professors. So you tell me, does it make a university in Pakistan with 6% professors? That is a subject, and that's what we are discussing. That come on, stop cheating students. Because, for example, I'll tell you another thing. We have interviewed over 2,000 students. We have employed only 3 or 4 because universities are turning out junk. Madam, tell us, what is the graduate unemployment rate?
31%,
Right? What is the PhD unemployment rate?
even higher.
Right?
Unemployment rate is high because there is no growth for the economy to generate employment opportunities. Government sector is
At the same time, we've looked at quality. We've looked at the quality. Everybody has looked at the quality. Yeah, Naeem Saab is sitting here too. Quality is terrible. I mean, to tell us that the quality is okay, I think that's the data is there, the evidence is there. You don't want the evidence. So making houses in public universities.
Of course.
Use the land. Right now, what professors are doing again, please, building houses for themselves and not using the money to educate kids. This is also on our agenda. This business of building houses has to stop. You build houses, you build, mashallah, comfortable places, and then you turn to the government and say, give us money for education. I'm sorry. Stop building houses, use and stop having employees' unions, stop criticizing the university, get back to teaching, then talk to us. My view is I need to convince us first before we can even go to the gatekeepers. I think gatekeepers are going to be only convinced when we are convinced, when we know what we want. And unfortunately, what I see here is that we ourselves don't know what we want. I think the biggest problem in Pakistan that I disagree. We know all the solutions. I think we don't even know the questions. For example, the issue of this policy. What is the policy stance? Very few people know about the Hak model that we are following. Very few people know about the mercantilist policy that we are following. Very few people know that we have no markets in this country, period. When I say markets, I use the definition of Alras or Roth or whatever. Markets, proper markets, not markets as if, hey, I traded something. That doesn't mean anything. Structured markets we don't have. Aage chale ji. Where is this thing? Where is that? Acha. Now, forget it. Aage chale, aage. Now, for example, go forward. Here we have, for example, the 2 markets where the government interferes the most, the agricultural market, wheat and sugar, and you can see the value added is very low and the productivity is very low. Aage chale. Our productivity is declined dramatically. Look, for example, we talk about this real estate. Now, somebody mentioned real estate, and real estate is a big problem, etc. I would say real estate is heavily taxed. People who think real estate is not taxed, we should talk about it. We end up in positions that real estate is not taxed. Real estate is heavily taxed. Take this building, for example. It's heavily taxed. This building should be destroyed and built again. The owner is forced to redo it because they won't let him rebuild the building. That's taxation. The whole of Islamabad is sitting on a 2-story thing Whereas it should be moved, and I've written a lot about it. I won't talk about it. It's backed by research. Please see it. Second thing is, for example, a real estate market does not exist. What is the market? If you look at the definition of a market, market is not just freedom, leave everything be. Doesn't mean anything. Market has to be structured. Information has to be there. The whole Stiglitz-Weiss theorem. Where's the information? On real estate, I can't find any information. Case in point, for example, a friend of mine has a property which she inherited. She can't sell it because there's no information on the property. There's no structured market. So because there's no market, the real estate agents are gaming her. So real estate market needs to be structured. We were prepared a whole plan on how to structure the real estate market. Digitization, of course, that's a solution. But within digitization, you need rules because at the end of digitization, there's a human being. So unless you can digitize properly with rules, there's no market. So real estate doesn't have a market. Now look at agriculture. There's no market in agriculture. Our largest sector, government monopolizes the seed market. Government monopolizes the output market. Government monopolizes the input market. Government controls prices. So where's the market? You can say the government doesn't matter. You can say give them freedom or whatever. But hell, if the government does not get out, allow the market mechanism to take place, allow people to take risks. Biggest problem is people who say give them freedom or whatever also don't want to take risks. There can be no market without risks. So we have to allow people to take risks. Biggest risk is failure. Let people fail. Are we going to let people fail? Then you say, no, create 10,000 funds. Have a fund for business failure, have a fund for climate change, have a fund for this. Where are we going to get the money to make funds? I don't see where the money is coming from. Then for God's sakes, just come out clean and say you want a socialist state. Let's have a socialist state. Aage chalne ji. Take a look at, I can't even read it, yeah. What is this? Media. Look at the media market. The media market runs on the fact that the government pays it to run. Advertisement budget, the largest advertisement budget is the government. Ministry of Information runs the media market. So we are saying get rid of the Ministry of Information. We don't need it. As somebody said just now, that, hey, it could be a part of the Foreign Office or whatever. We don't need the Ministry of Information, and we don't need a government budget. Government can advertise whatever it wants on a website, doesn't need to advertise on TV. And the second thing is the business model of the media is wrong. Here's where we need some regulation. If the media is an offshoot of a business enterprise that wants to blackmail the government, it's a bad business model. So we have to challenge that. We have to create a separation, a firewall between business and the media. The media should not be used as blackmail. Media should be a separate business model. It's not that Aleem Khan and Malik Riaz and everybody wants to buy media. Why do they want to buy media? They want to use it as a blackmail. So that should not be allowed. That's market making, elementary market making. Then the automotive market. We don't have an automotive market in the country because we protected automobiles to death. We're doing a simulation right now, and this is again another question that needs to be sorted out. I think we need to ask this question, and nobody's asked this question. What if the automobile market dies? What if we stop protecting cars? What is the loss to the economy? I can tell you there's no loss to the economy. In fact, there's a gain to the economy. Why can't we just close the automobile? No, even private gain. If the business will thrive. Right now, there's 3 companies or 4 companies now holding the market hostage. The rest of the repair business, etc., will continue. And the biggest gains that we'll have are, which are private gains, that we will have less pollution because we can bring EVs in. Right now, they won't allow EVs in, they won't allow hybrids in. We have a pollution market, and that's what's happening. So market making also requires some clever thinking and thought. You can't make markets without thought. Otherwise, you create distortions. Markets themselves, there's a huge literature on markets that we should look at. Balras, Roth, many people. We have to understand markets make markets. Yeah, financial markets is another one that I think we've covered somewhere else. Financial market, for example. Do we have a financial market in this country? Who's done some research on financial markets in this country? What is the research on financial markets? We have studied the financial markets and we see, Mahbubullah said there were 22 families. Today, there are 31 families. Top PSX 100 companies have 750 board members, all of whom are connected. They're all Sindh Club members. They're all ex-city bankers. They're all ex-NIT. They're all ex-civil servant. Right? And all the civil servants are on boards of every SOE. I mean, these are details that I think we should look at. We can't ignore these details. These details exist. Storage market, for example. Pasco stores all the wheat, and the government is subsidizing Pasco. Pasco wastes the wheat. You're talking about food security. Pasco wastes more wheat than we need for food security. From the wheat.
Commodities.
Exactly. So I think all these things have to be taken into account. And the most important thing is we are trying to work on, Acha, we are trying to work on this thing. We are trying to work on this thing called, again, as Khalid Sahab kehte hai, he knows all the questions and answers. Storage market, for example, nobody's worked in the storage market. Storage market is dead in this country. It's a terrible market, and without storage, you can't have agriculture. One of the reasons you see these prices jumping up and down is because there's no storage in commodities market. We've tried to work on the commodities market. We need a commodities market, and that just means having a storage market and linking it up with an exchange of storage receipts. We've got the law for that. We need to organize it better, and there'll be a market there. So that's the issue. Now, financial markets is a very important thing. Financial markets, our stock market has shrunk from 20% of GDP 20 years ago, 5% of GDP. Our IPOs that don't exist, and we have a corporate governance system that I said that is so well connected that it's bloody bunch of Synth Club members who have lunch every day and decide what's going to happen in the market every day. S6 was bought by China and China ran away. We don't allow another exchange to happen. So quite frankly, financial market is dead. Debt market, you know what's happening. The debt market is owned by the banks. Banks are a cartel. Now, again, nobody's understood this thing. Why are the banks a cartel? Why are we making sure? And there, the central bank governor sort of raised the banking entry fee to such an extent and made it so difficult there can be no new bank in Pakistan now. So the cartel is reinforced by the central bank. Central bank is giving them more and more functions. The debt functions go to the cartel. Even the exchange function has gone to the cartel. So you can see the banks making these huge profits, and then they get the super tax. But best of all is the city bankers who run the country. City bankers are making it big, great. They earn 4 or 5 crore rupees a month for doing nothing, for just being a broker to the government. So I think these are all things that we need to think about. The banking system has to be made more competitive. Stock market has to be made. Again, on the stock market issue, there is no liquidity in the market. It's all, for a start, a very important point to make. We have no professionally run business in this country. All the business is run as a family-owned business, which is why your education market doesn't work. There's no market for professionals in this country. The private sector doesn't have a market for professionals. Only the government has professionals. So I think this is also things that we need to put on the table. There's so many questions that I need to put on the table, and I think we need to discuss. I think, quite frankly, the poor help themselves. I think the biggest problem is we sit in these rooms, very nice rooms. We are too concerned about the poor. We love the poor in air-conditioned rooms with a glass of black label in our hands. But quite frankly, the poor have helped themselves more than we've helped them. Case in point is migration. They help themselves through this age-old Harris-Todaro model. Migration. They migrated to the West. They got remittances. That's what decreased poverty, not us, not the government. So quite frankly, let's face it, the poor help themselves. And again, this is what the PIDE agenda is, very simple. The poor will help themselves if you allow them into the cities. Pakistan has become urbanized, but Pakistan has not become urbanized. Because we've become urbanized, but we've urbanized in a sprawl. The true rulers of the country, the Ashrafia, as Khalil Saab says, which to my mind, I differ with him. The Ashrafia is really, I mean, not that much, is really the bureaucracy. And judges are a part of it. It's the colonial bureaucracy. Let's put it that way. I don't call it Ashraf. The term he uses, I call it the colonial bureaucracy, which includes what Lord Macaulay set up, which is the civil service, which is the judiciary, which is the army. They have been, since the British government, one of the biggest games was real estate. They're into real estate. They control city centers. They live in the hearts of all cities because that's what the British left. They have not liberalized that part of the city. In fact, we talk privatization, we talk liberalization. We are all wrong because privatization that needs to happen is of city centers. The real wealth lies in city centers, neither in minerals, nor in PIA or whatever SOEs. SOEs are loss-making organizations. They lose us money. They'll not make us money. The real wealth is in the city centers that these guys control, and these guys won't leave. They're enjoying themselves in state luxuries. Look in front of the Kosar market. Look out here in the Ministers' Colony in front of the Marriott. This is the real wealth of Pakistan, and that they won't allow to happen. But there, it's much worse. They don't. They say next to us nothing can be built. So if nothing can be built, so the Mall Road, Lahore, which is a great city center, they've stifled it for the last 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, with the result that that labor market that is developing, labor markets are cities. Labor markets are nothing more than cities. That's it. And the civil service destroys, this colonial market also destroys another side of the labor market, again, the source of the government, because the government employment is the best. And we do our surveys, basic survey, etc., we find that people, kids want a government job. And they announce it. Why do they want a government job? Because it gives you the lifetime security and you don't have to work. So when you got that kind of an incentive, you've taken the drive out of kids. At the same time, these guys don't allow, they are so busy building a car infrastructure, which I'm afraid international donors are financing. That stupid car infrastructure means that the street economy is dead. Street economy in Pakistan is gone. Without the street economy, I don't see how the poor labor market can work. I mean, Jane Jacobs, if you read her, she says the poor economy is the street economy. The street is the nerve center of the country, but we've killed the street. We've overregulated the street. We made sure that the street has no sidewalks. We made sure the street has cars, and we made sure there are no street vending. So PIDE has been talking about building street vending centers. We built one street vending centers, and we built a street vending infrastructure software. But unfortunately, the bureaucracy doesn't want it for the same reason, because they want their free cars. By the way, the cars are free. The cars don't cost anything. This is what I call public transport. They have public transport. Simple, they have public transport. I keep telling everybody, in fact, Shahid Kardar and I used to joke about it all the time, that we have public transport, we can go anywhere. So public transports they've got. So given this structural incentive problem at work, for example, the lady asked about gender. How can you have a female labor market without cities? Female labor market exists in the cities. And if you don't allow a labor market in the cities, I would go further. Female labor market sits in happens in shopping malls. You go to Centaurus, you'll see it. You can't have a female labor market outside Centaurus. It's too difficult, too unsafe. So it took us 30 years to get shopping malls going. Now, thank God, we got shopping malls going. But even today, they resist density in cities. As Jane Jacobs said a long time ago, it's eyes on the street that make people safe. Here we have no eyes on the street because we live in a suburbia. Suburbia is absolutely, has been shown by Glazer and by whatever, some people, many people have been shown that suburbia is not friendly to either the labor market or the female. So it's a whole change in thing that, as I said, I was surprised that we know all the question and answers. No, this is a question, big area of research that we know nothing about. Cities are where it should happen. But then, in order to make cities happen, that jaldi se kare. Kya hai ji? City, we don't respect it, right? Secondly, we are making a sprawl, which means that all of us are losing our life by 6 years now. It's thanks to the sprawl, and it's thanks to trying to keep the poor out. It's thanks to trying to keep cities for the cars. Aage chale ji kya hai? Local government. You can't have cities without local governments. But local governments have to be clear. You can't have local government in Lord Macaulay's system. That's also contradiction. If you think you can have local government with DCs, sorry, you can't have local government DCs. If you think you can have local government chairman CDA, sorry, it's not going to happen because they are too powerful. Either they stay or local government stays. So there is a choice to make. So once again, we come back to as Zahid asked about connectiveness. Here's the connectiveness. Without changing Lord Macaulay's system, here's the prioritization. Without changing Lord Macaulay's system, we are just throwing money down the tubes. Deregulation, they will not deregulate anything. They don't allow, they want NOC after NOC after NOC. Yesterday, somebody told me that he was a foreign investor came in, he was trying to, overseas Pakistani, he was trying to set up industry. So he took a whatever, paperwork, he printed that out in color. So the guy came, bureaucrat said, hey, this is in color, go back, do it in black and white. So he did it in black and white. Then no, this is A4 paper. Go back and do it in A3. After 15 trips, he said, look, I mean, I've done this back and forth. Now what's happening? He said, what are you worried about? This guy here has 30 trips. So just relax. You're still going at a faster speed than him. So that's the business we've got. We have to deregulate the system in a very, very big way. And how do we do it? That's a big issue. Ji, aage chale? Okay. Local government, we've had many experiments. Our proposed agenda is very simple. We have to have local government, but local government has to be really local. Local government has to be local bureaucracy, not DC. Local government has to be local everything, not that Islamabad is in control. We have to ensure city autonomy, and then the constitution has to be such that we have some, representation. How do we figure it out? Has big question that needs to be answered. Cities and engines of growth. We have to recognize economic geography, and we have to make sure that the regulations allow development. Our cities have to become a mess before we have public services. I'm sorry. That's the way the world works. We can't build public services before the city. I mean, this is a misnomer that we'll build public. If you don't allow us to build high, if you don't allow us to build shopping malls, for example, right now we've estimated there are huge shortages in cities. For example, even schools. Do you know Lahore has not built a single school in the last 50 years? Lahore has not built a single school in the last 50 years. Lahore has built private schools, allowed private schools to be built in houses. So students are sitting in bedrooms and bathrooms, getting an education with no library, with no playground. But there's purpose-built schools Lahore has not had for so many years. Only DHA recently allowed some about 20 years ago. And there are 3 or 4 purpose-built schools in DHA. The rest are all still. 75 to 80% of schools are still in houses. Warehouses. We have no warehouse space in Pakistan. Again, we have to go into details. We had to give Carrefour an advantage. Think about it, negative protection. We gave Carrefour free land because they said we are bringing in money. So our warehouses, like sales shops like Al-Fatah, etc., suffered. They had negative protection. And that's the way we are going because we go blindly. Then what is it? I can't read. The biggest problem that I have, I keep telling you, is state-owned captured land. The houses that the colonial bureaucracy is holding. That is a gold mine that someday will drive this country. The day you guys can get it liberalized, that is going to reduce our debt. Our debt is going to be killed by that. Not only will it kill the debt, it will start a whole new labor market. It will start a whole new growth cycle in Pakistan. State captured land, we are not even talking about it. We've estimated that just right next to here. What is it, G60? क्या है जी वो क्या था अजबर ने? हाँ, वो क्या बताएंगे जरा जल्दी से बताएं. यार बताएं. Yeah, बताएं quickly.
Actually, we run a simulation where we proposed that what if all the government houses in the G6, we just liberalize it and shift to the government houses from here and privatize this land. Our estimation states that we will fetch in around $50 billion by just only privatizing this area where we are sitting. 50 billion.
And these are all low quality houses that are for the not junior, for the non-graded civil servants. There are tons of them here that pass from generation to generation. They're almost like private property, and these people are not even doing any work, but that's there. And then also, I would relate that because looking at that, everybody is building houses. Universities are building houses. Every other agency is building houses. So we are building public sector housing. You guys say housing is a shortage. Sorry, public sector housing is in excess supply here. But unfortunately, it's going to the wrong places. And it's using prime land. Where we sit in Qaidam University, which is prime land, there are these government houses. Jai Daskar is smiling at me. And those government built houses, PSTV built houses, they're planned houses. I would pay, probably Daji would pay to stay there. Maurice, you would pay to stay there. But this land is captured. And this land has to be looked at. So that's one thing. Aage chale ji kya hai? City center, and we will not allow city center to be developed. Islamabad has no city center. Lahore has no city center. Now, after all has happened, they've thought that they'll make a city center outside Lahore. They've made city center. Islamabad is also thinking of making a city center near the airport. How do you have a city center that's outside the country? I mean, please review the city literature from Hansen to Lucas to everybody, and you'll see city centers are in the center. In fact, all pricing happens off city center. But if you got a city center off center, I don't understand this. This is the model that we are following. So that's the model of our markets that we really clearly need to understand. We don't understand this. In the West, it's very clear, increased taxation leads to lower growth. All the European countries have been reducing taxation in the middle of a recession. Why are we so obsessed with increasing taxation in the middle of a recession? We are sitting in a deep recession. Our per capita income has been negative for the last 2 years and probably going to again negative this year. And we still want more taxation. And then on the other side, we don't look at the agencies. For example, SIFC, somebody mentioned BOI. I've got a very simple analysis of BOI. BOI, I've done this simple thing, which will show you. Here is BOI. Simple evaluation of BOI, evidence-based. Please,
Everyone can't see. You have.
can you see? Axis is very simple. Time, up here is percent. Okay? Percent of GDP, percent of GDP. Percent of GDP investment is like this. You agree with me? It's a line, right? BOI budget is growing like this. Is a line. You agree with me? Is this evidence-based or not? So tell me, what has BOI done? Second, I'll reverse this. Same graph. Now this is TDAP. Export GDP ratio is this. TDAP is going up. Evidence-based. Right? I can do the same thing for NEPRA. I mean, all these regulatory agencies, all these agencies that are not producing anything, how many can we close down? We don't close. There should be. How many we've seen? There are 122 regulatory bodies in Islamabad, and there more are being made.
When you started talking about market,
Yeah.
the biggest hurdle towards marketization of everything is
Yeah. मुझे बताएं, DRAP, for example, the work that DRAP has done to our benefit, looking after our health, is this: that I had a girl come to my office the other day, and she was crying. She has a special child who needs a special milk. And now they've banned the import of that milk. She has to buy it in the black market. Thank God for the black market, otherwise the child would be dead. But in order to buy it in the black market, she has to sell a car, and she sold a house to look after a child. People are looking for insulin. I get people calling me, hey, get me insulin. This is what the regulatory body has done. Instead of saving our lives, it's destroying our lives. And then on top of that, these NOCs. What do these NOCs do? I had a meeting with the Garana people the other day, mean.com people. It takes 4 years to get permission to build a building. Now that 4 years that are lost, what are they going to do? They're going to charge us. So the price of a flat in Islamabad is almost the same, or Lahore is almost the same as New York. Why? A, because we do not allow flats to be built. And two, when we allow them, we take a huge amount of time on permissions, leave alone other factors. So everything eventually comes down to the same thing: lack of markets and the civil service, colonial system. So our priorities to me are very clear. If we want to move forward, we have to change the structure, modernize the governance system. For example, again, take a look at this. I mean, it's very simple. Islamabad right now, I can show you because I've done this research, again, evidence-based. If you want, we can check it out today. The price of land here, one canal, is 15 crores. Easily, maybe even 20. In fact, F63, it's 30, 40. Right? Right? You go across to Banigala, how much is the price of land? 5, 6. Why? You go past Taxila, you get the price of land at only CDA commands the premium. Why? Because it's the only place where there's some organization. DHA commands the price, but 1 mile outside DHA price is very low. So where do we study these things? Why don't we have a uniform price of land? Why don't we allow a land market to develop? Because we've still got the Patwari. Do you know when the Patwari was set up? Khalil Sahab, when was the Patwari set up? Todermal. No, sir, Todermal. Todermal, 15 something. We still have the Patwari. And we still have the Latha. I mean, for God's sakes, yeah. Can't we change this? The World Bank has given 20 years worth of money on electronic land registration, right? 20 years of money, and we still have Patwari. You can't solve the problem with electronics alone. You have to change the system. That's what we are saying. So that's the issue. So there are deep issues. So I'll end on this, that this is not just reform agenda. This is what I would advocate. We are also advocating this as a research agenda. We are trying to sell it. We've gone to about 20, 30 universities. We are telling them this is a research agenda. When you begin to get deeper into this subject, when you begin to understand what the Patwari does, and when you can understand in your district what the role of the Patwari is. For example, think about it. Another thing, Naji, that needs to be thought through very clearly in agriculture. Have you thought about it? क्यों जी नईम साहब चले गए हैं? What is the census? The census, agricultural census says that the average size of land in the most fertile part of Pakistan is 5 acres. Is 5 acres a viable economic unit? So then is that a viable economic unit? Now, why is that's another problem? Good. So
95% of land is small.
yeah. So then, Thursa, please give the army credit. At least they're thinking of a green revolution. Civilian side has not thought of farming. At least they're doing it. So we blame the army all the time, but it is our failure to think through things. Thank you very much, folks. This has been a great discussion. We'll do it every month. Please join in. That's the only way we learn.
These things become really
Hmm.
research.
Good point. I think we'll do it. We'll add it. Thank you very much, folks. This has been wonderful. Gee. Agreed. Agreed. Totally agreed. Thank you, Ji. Come lunch. We're giving you lunch for your you've sung for your supper, so you will get lunch. Thank you.